Welcome to the AZ Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Hamid Shojai. Let's go. And we're live. All right, so I'm here with Mike Roberts, CEO and founder of Spyfu. Hey, Mike.
Hey, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
It's been so long, right?
I know your hair wasn't nearly as long as it is right now, the last time I saw you.
No, man. I have gone completely surfered out like this summer, you know.
Would you call that COVID hair or?
Yeah, this is my COVID hair for sure.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny because, I have had a hard time with haircuts during COVID, and it's been crazy. So you've been surfing?
Yeah. So like one of my COVID projects was that I just became a general contractor for a while and like completely gutted and rebuilt my beach house. Like not myself. I just had I did it in 5 weeks though, which is it's like a 2-year project.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I took it down to the studs and removed everything and then just rebuilt from scratch.
Do you have experience doing that kind of stuff before, or is this new to you?
I mean, my dad was a construction guy, a general contractor. They had rentals and stuff like that when I was a kid, and so every weekend we'd be going over to some tenant's house and cleaning it up.
So you grew up doing some construction, you knew what drywall was, for example, whereas I learned what drywall was as an adult.
Like I can basically do all the things.
Okay.
But I never want to do them. Generally speaking, I have avoided it my entire life. And to my dad's, he always wanted me to just do more construction stuff. But I'm like, no, I don't really like to do manual labor, but I'm capable of all of them.
That's awesome.
I could basically be a functional electrician. That'd be the trade that I could make a living doing. That.
So if Spyfu fails, you have a backup plan.
I actually think that there's some value in that. I'll definitely I'm going to replace all of my outlets in my house with USB-C ones.
Yeah.
And I'll have my kids do it, as I think it's kind of a useful thing to have at least, basically get shocked a few thousand times with.
As long as they don't die, they're okay, right?
Everybody has an irrational fear of electricity. It's it doesn't really
kill you.
No.
Okay.
Especially if you just if you use one hand, you're fine.
So wait, is it if you use both hands that you might get?
Yeah, because the circuit can go across your heart, and that's generally what you want to avoid. So if you're ever doing working with the panel, right? Most people are super afraid of the panel. Well, just use one hand. You're fine.
Worst case scenario, you have it burning off a little bit of your fingers, right?
Basically, yeah, you're not going to likely die of it, so you can just
Wow.
But when you're working with 110, 15 amps with circuit breakers, dude, if you don't know, just touch the two wires together, and then the circuit breaker will take care of it. All you use a flash, and it's
I feel like that's terrible advice. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't take my advice, but this is I'm correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But this is why I love talking to you, because the conversations with you always go in places that I never anticipated. But which is why I want to actually briefly touch on Spyfu, or we'll never get to Spyfu,
sure.
because we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. So tell our audience what Spyfu is real quick. And you've built this amazingly successful, organically grown company right here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So real quick, what is Spyfu, and give us a little bit of stats that you're willing to share.
Yeah, sure. So Spyfu, we're founded here in Arizona in Scottsdale Air Park. We literally used to occupy this exact room, this building.
This was your ping pong room, right?
Yeah, it was. This was our ping pong room was outside this door. This was our Xbox room / foosball room.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys actually did some work too, I presume.
I don't know. My office was where your maker lab is. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of the complete opposite end, and so people would come over here for hours, I guess, every day. All they do is play foosball.
But what did you do? Like, what does Spyfu do?
So Spyfu, you can go to spyfu.com, type in any website, and see every keyword that they've ever bought on Google, every organic ranking that they have, and all the history for the last 15 years. Which seems like, well, why do you want to know about the historical, advertising thing? Well, the thing is that people make mistakes. People spend millions of dollars a day on Google AdWords. Some people. And you can basically learn from all of their experience without having to suffer the consequences, right? So you're looking at their $1 million, $30 million a month budget and learning their split tests, like the results of their split tests, A, B, C, some of these people, you can see like 40 split tests on a single keyword that they've done over the course of 10 years. And so you can take all of that information and take a shortcut to the top. And then, of course, you've got the SEO side, which is all about organic rankings and backlinks. So, it's a big data thing. It's a competitive intelligence product for marketers. But really, what you want to think about in terms of like your competitors is not just the person that you feel like you want to crush. That's one competitor, like the guy, that guy's taking my business, he's the lawyer down the street that sponsors a race team or whatever, and you're annoyed by his mere existence. And that's something we tap into, but we try to transition people to think of the competitors that you admire that aren't necessarily in direct head-to-head competition, because they tend, if you're lucky, the competitor you want to crush is also good at marketing. But oftentimes, it's somebody else that's doing what you do or something similar, that's doing it on a world-class level. Those are the people you want to emulate them.
So you're providing visibility into their marketing initiatives on like Google Ads and SEO and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, legit. I use this example Groupon because whatever. I mean, the company's almost come and gone in a large way. So we'd been collecting the data for 6 years before they even became a company, and so you can see their entire AdWords and internet marketing campaign from like the very first ad that the CEO wrote through all of the different iterations that they did. Right. So you can see the entire life cycle, the entire campaign.
Right.
So that's a useful thing. Also, like hedge funds and stuff like that use this data. It's kind of an emerging market. There's like really good signals in there. It's kind of an interesting thing that people are using it for fraud detection. There's a lot of uses for the actual data set that we have, but the product is
for marketers.
Right.
Okay. Touch on like revenue or any statistics you're willing to share in terms of.
Spyfu's like a $7 million ARR company. We have like it's like a freemium product, so we got like 100 or 150,000 unique users that come and use the free product, and about 14,000 give or take, it's probably like 13,300 users that are active paying customers. The price is $39 a month, all you can eat. And we intentionally keep our product like most of like sort of marketing intelligence or marketing automation tools generally are like $200, $500, really $99 kind of where you start on things.
Right.
But our mission, Spyfu's mission and my mission, my goal is, I like small business and entrepreneurs. These are my people, the people that stay up at night, like, innovating and grinding. And these are my people. And I'm going to make it so that more people have access to these tools. It's always been the driving force behind what we do. Granted, a lot of our customers are big companies and enterprises, but I'm not here to make the billion-dollar companies get
more money.
I'm here to make it so that the guy that's trying to start something, the scrappy guys. And so really, marketers are kind of like our big thing, but also small business entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, of course, are marketing machines in themselves. So But frankly, we make a little bit less on entrepreneurs because they usually don't need it like on as much of a recurring basis. They want to look at the stuff, get their information. So a lot of our free users are entrepreneurs. But I'm just going to make it as accessible as we possibly can.
It's funny because one of the things we've known each other for a long time, and I know like you were going through a whole bunch of different pricing tests to see what's the ideal pricing for your product, and your direction has always been what's the lowest I can price it and still get similar sort of revenue because I want to help the most number of people, and I love that about your strategy, which is where you landed on the $39. Yes.
Sorry. Can you fix your? It's kind of distracting.
Oh, the hair. Just pick it up like this, and then bring it back down.
I just wanted to make sure that we weren't.
Yeah, no worries. We'll cut from before.
Yeah. So does that work?
That looks better.
Fucking hair, man.
We'll restart here, and we'll just make a joke about how Mike's hair. We had to take a hair break.
Dude, look, I have.
Or maybe we'll just play the whole thing.
Yeah, it's fine. I have like a hair tie, and so I've like had to learn how to like do the whole putting my hair in a ponytail / up in a bun and all that, and it's just like it's fine. It's fine, but it's like I'm not.
Don't worry,
I'm not a girl. I have not.
You look like
out.
a male model. I mean, like just walking around, you're fine. It's funny because Tegan earlier came and said, "What does your guest look like?" Because somebody walked in with their sort of like, or apparently you drove a motorcycle, which I want to talk about by the way. But she's like, somebody walked in who was off of a motorcycle and just took a lap around the building. And I was like, that's got to be him.
Yeah.
It's Spyfu pricing, great. You built a $7 million organic. And okay, so I want to talk about a few things. One is Spyfu, and you actually haven't taken any money. Outside investment money. And you've been sort of like, we've had numerous discussions about this. Yeah. Like your philosophy on that, you have a different view. Like, why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because
well, my view has evolved. Okay. Right, as I've learned, and so initially, my Spyfu is not my first company, and my first sort of company I think that I was going to make was I failed because I just didn't have any technical skills, right? Like I didn't actually know how to like write code. I had taught myself how to write code so I could build products, but at that time I was like 19, and it was like kind of the peak of the .com bubble, and I was like, well, the way to do this is to raise capital, and I spent kind of an inordinate amount of time trying to raise capital. Of course, as a 19-year-old, maybe I was 20, but I was probably 19. I wasn't like Ivy League at all, right? I was like, dude goes to like almost pretty much technical school, right? And like hasn't graduated. There's no way anybody's ever going to give me any money. But I pitched and I wrote things, and I was like, damn, I kind of spent like, the majority of the inertia for this startup. Because I had people that wanted to do it with me, and we were a team. But most of what we spend our time on is figuring out a presentation, and then we, didn't get anything. But it would have been better if I just had a damn product,
right?
So the next time, so the .com
people
bubble,
underestimate how time-consuming raising money is.
Oh, dude, that's the thing. Is raising money, selling your company. These are just like major distractions.
Yeah, it's a full-time job essentially for at least one person in the company, and if you're the only person, then it's a full-time job for you. And
and it's not. I mean, it's fun to present. I like talking, but I'd rather build value, create value for people. Right. And the reality is, you get $1 million. Cool, you got $1 million. But I would I'd honestly rather have $10,000 in MRR than $1 million in revenue. Like or than $1 million in capital. Yeah. Like it's. I feel like pretty easily the amount of time that you have to, to raise capital, at least sort of that seed round, even broadly speaking, I think that you could get some revenue, you could get some money coming in, and if you can replace your damn day job money, right, you're good, you're golden. I mean, like all you got to do then is just not quit.
Yeah.
Right? That's it.
That's exactly how I started as well. Is like I built something like close to $8,000. Six to 8,000 is what I was averaging per month for like 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And then I quit my day job essentially to work full time on it.
So I'd like to propose a solution for the world, right? So my solution is you're a budding entrepreneur, you want to get a startup, maybe you want to do a SaaS company. Build into the initial phases of your product, build a solution, right? Build it so that you can effectively, even if you're not building the best possible product, build a solution that you can essentially charge consulting time along with, right? Because that's something that you I have reasonable sales skills. I can sell myself. You can sell yourself. But so if you build like that sort of funnel into it, then you can scrape your way to a point where the product is actually self-supporting. But if you kind of don't think about that and you need to build a self-service product all the way through, you might run out of money before you have to go get a job again. No big deal. But I think building a consulting model into your early product can help you avoid raising capital and just kind of get yourself into entrepreneurial mode fully.
Right.
I think that's key.
And now, would you consider raising money for Spyfu, or do you feel like you've jumped that hurdle and it's profitable? You wouldn't want to make it more complex. You're either going to keep it or sell it, type of thing.
Yeah, the thing is that, and I've given presentations on this, and we've talked about it a lot. But my view is broadly that there's an alignment issue between entrepreneurs and venture capital, and so I'm like the guy that when people come and they're like, "Hey, what should I?" I'm always like, "Don't raise capital. Do whatever you can to not raise capital.
Yeah.
Put it off. Okay, look, you're going to raise capital eventually. Just do it." Here's what I did. I said, I'm going to raise capital once I've got a prototype. And then I was like, well, I got a prototype. I might as well
try to sell it.
Yeah, I might as well sell it. And then I was like, well, once I get to I don't know $20,000 in revenue MRR, then I'll try to raise capital. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll wait until I get to like $1 million in ARR, and then I'll raise capital. And then I was like 2 million, and I just kept basically
delaying it.
Yeah, I mean, laziness is a virtue.
Yeah, and so is stupid, like naivety or like stupidity. Like so many things get started because you don't know how complex or how hard it's going to be. And like when you're sort of 2 years into it, you're like, I would have never done this if I knew how hard it was going to be. Yeah. But now you're 2 years in, you're sort of like stuck.
Yeah. Like I try to disclose my weaknesses, to particularly my employees in terms of decision making and such. And as entrepreneurs, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you may not have this weakness, but I think that all entrepreneurs, one of their biggest blind spots is optimism, right?
Yeah,
and we always think of optimism as, oh, that's good. You're a good person because you're optimistic. You're not a glass half empty kind of person. Right. You're a glass half full kind of guy, right? Okay, good. That's great, except that it can cloud your vision particularly in terms of risk and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to make the best decisions I can. We can talk about stocks and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
optimism can really get in the way of pure financial decisions and such.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I always crack up now because every time Elon Musk says when something is going to ship. People are every interview they're asking him when is X going to happen, and every single time I'm like, he's probably learned enough to not answer that question aggressively. And it's like, when do you think we're going to go to Mars? Like literally, he just did an interview with Joe Rogan, and he's like, I think 2 years, and he's like, 2 years for Mars, it's going to be this year when Starship actually orbits. And I'm like, oh my God. That is true entrepreneur optimism, where you just completely don't see, to an extreme almost.
If I were to bet when I do a major project and when it's going to ship, I would bet based on my history that it's 15 months. Because that's how long it takes me to ship every damn thing.
Yeah.
Right?
But when you start it, how long do you think it's going to be?
I can't figure out how to make it like longer than 6 months, but I know what it's going to take. I know.
So-
I've done
so
it.
you-
I've done it enough times that I know the right answer.
Right.
But I can't communicate to my team, this is going to take 15 months.
Right. Because
I don't think I
then
can.
it might actually take 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's funny because I always think that he might know that he's not going to Mars for another 6 years or whatever. But if he says that to the team, then everything relaxes way too much to the point where
Yeah, and I'd love to have an external. To some degree, you want to like communicate with your customers one number,
Right.
and then you want to communicate, to manage expectations, and then you want to communicate internally another number.
Right.
But that's hard because everybody, whatever's
hear.
public is public. Yeah.
they're not stupid. They're like, you just told the customer 3 years or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'll just go. Can I? I'll just.
Yeah.
How about we? Who knows? Whatever. Let's go play some foosball.
Right. Well, that's your fault for having a foosball table, right?
I guess Rocket League's the new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. So at Spyfu, one of the things that like sets you apart, because it's fairly easy to say, okay, we provide like marketing data on your competitors or whatever company essentially that you want to see what words they're advertising, or what their SEO rankings or what words they're good on SEO rankings, but the way in which you provide that information to people means that you actually have to go collect a ridiculous. This is what I didn't understand about your business. When I learned about the amount of data that you're collecting in order to know this information on virtually any company that someone comes in and searches for, like, walk us through a little bit of the amount of data you're dealing with. And this is probably like, by the way, I'm like setting up to where other conversations, because you're like the smartest data guy I know, and like you have a very unique perspective on data usage and analytics, and I want to talk a lot about that stuff. But this will be a good setup in terms of why you're good at it.
Basically the idea is that, and the fundamental premise, starting out with Google, with what was called Google Spy at the time, and now is Spyfu, was to create a reverse phone directory effectively for Google, right? So in order to have a reverse phone number lookup, you have to have all the phone numbers, right? So in order to be able to say, let's see what any random domain advertises on or ranks on, that means that I just need to know who ranks on everything else, right? So I have to do, millions and potentially, we're aiming to do billions of searches per month. And so if we can get to about 5 billion SERPs, to be honest with you, the difference between SERPs at that level...
And SERP is?
Oh, sorry, search engine result page.
Okay.
Dang it.
Yeah, it's
I try to never do that. It's become such a common thing for us. So we want to run as many searches as we possibly can, get those pages, scrape them, put them into a data store, and then be able to reverse search them or forward search them, or basically be able to index them in all the ways that we want to index them. And then compute aggregations, roll-ups. How much is this domain spending on ads? How many clicks are they getting? Those sort of things are kind of spreadsheet math, right? Like if you took just all the data for one, website, you could just add it up in a spreadsheet. When you're doing it at scale, it's more complicated. But ultimately, yeah. So we're basically processing terabytes of data every couple hours.
Terabytes of data every couple hours.
Running maybe a few thousand searches per minute, or hundreds per second ish. Pretty big scale. When we do our crawl, we're maxing out like 20 gigabits per second.
Of bandwidth.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we can basically take all of Google and put it in a box, right? So like at 5 billion SERPs, that's kind of the limit to the number of SERPs that Google, unique SERPs that Google does, right? So if we take all that data and then we crawl all of those links, we'll basically have the entire ecosystem of Google in a little orb that we can just do whatever we want with. You know, we could basically hypothetically say, what happens if we make a change to this page? How does that change their ranks? And so this is the overall vision. Now, it's not where we are, because when Spyfu started, there was no precedent for this. You couldn't type in a website and see the keywords that they rank on. That's our fundamental innovation. And, you know, as a dude in my house, you know, getting it off the ground was pretty rad. I had like one, two, three, maybe three employees working on another company at the time, and so when we're making $20,000 a month, that's a big deal. And so what happened is we produced this pretty sweet product, doing about 20 million searches a month, and then so then somebody came on, a company called Keyword Spy. They copied us. And put up a product, and they're like, well, Spyfu got away with 20 million,
right?
Because you know what I thought was there's a 30% chance that we're going to get blocked and shut down in the first 30 days, and like a 70% chance that we're going to get cease and desisted by Google in like the first year, for sure, right? Like, but you're an entrepreneur, you take the risk. So I put my 15 months of work in, right? Launched the product, and lo and behold, they didn't shut us down. But then these other companies came and started doing what we do, and they just, instead of doing 20 million keywords, they did 50 million. And then, you know, they didn't get shut down. So then another company, and this one happened to be like in Russia, they're like, well, these guys didn't get shut down at 50 million, so we'll do 100 million. Meanwhile, now I'm making $100,000 a month, and I'm like, this is good. Could you guys just like not get us all shut down, right? You know,
you're still worried that they're going to shut you down because
no.
And once no, I mean, like, this is back when they're doing 100,000 queries a month, and you're thinking if they shut them down, they might shut everyone down, and that's going to like shut me down too.
First of all, I'm in America, right? I'm
right.
the only one. I'm the only. You know, I'm the first one, and probably the best known, and the only one based in the United States. And so my thinking is, which is
as soon as the Russians come in.
Google's specific jurisdiction, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like, if you're in Russia, you can kind of be like, well, Google sued me.
Right. You can do nothing. I am in Russia.
I will just continue to do what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the other company is in like hypothetically Singapore. We didn't know for a long time where they were based. They were registered in like an offshore, like the Caymans or something, but then operating in like Korea. I'm not sure where they were. I still don't know. They're dead. Doesn't matter. Anyway, another company came along, did like $250 million, and that's been happening for a while. Even Chase, you know, Chase was running at larger scale than us. And I still was like, Chase, you know, you're doing, our friend Chase.
Friend Chase, not Chase the giant, enormous bank.
No.
But okay.
No, our friend Chase. You know, I was like, man, you guys are running like the same scale as like the country of UK, right? Like that's the amount of searches. You're running the same number of searches as the UK. And I'm like, you're going to get us all shut down. But lo and behold, Google's actually super awesome.
Yeah.
You know, Google's like this, and you know, like people, you know, like Stanford researchers have written, you know, research that says that tools like ours add approximately 7% to Google's revenue. So they've embraced the ecosystem to their credit. Like Google's an excellent company. Really interesting to work with. Interesting company because they're constantly trying to shut everyone down, but also not.
Right.
You know, weird. But
are they trying to shut people down? Like, what do you mean by that? I hadn't heard that before.
Let me say this: what they're trying to do is maximize the quality of the ads that they serve from their customers' perspective. And so oftentimes what happens is that if you just on your laptop start typing in like dozens of searches in an hour,
they might give you a CAPTCHA.
It'll give you a CAPTCHA, and then it'll continue to serve you ads, but it'll maybe serve you fewer and fewer ads the more and more you look suspicious.
Gotcha. They're trying to shut down like suspicious players or
Yeah.
players that are trying to like game the system to make more money. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So when I started, I could run our entire scrape from literally my closet on my single like Cox IP address in my house, right? Like maybe I had a couple of Cox IP addresses, right? But pretty much just one IP. And then and over time, you basically Google would shut down an IP, block it, pretty much hard block it. If you ran, but it'll definitely soft block it if you run the same IP, a request from the same IP more than twice per hour. Right. So to run billions of searches or even millions of searches, you need millions of IPs.
Right.
And getting millions of IPs is an expensive thing and yada, yada, yada. So this is how, Google has an initiative to improve the quality of the experience for the advertisers and the customers.
Okay.
And in that process, in that pursuing that, they wind up soft blocking people.
Right. So you're working with these enormous data sets and you're extrapolating a lot of things from them. And you're also like, because you're working with a limited data set, you're extrapolating what the like full data set would look like if you had it all. Which brings me to the sort of like next set of things I want to talk to you about, which is that like every now and then I get a late night text from you about about like what if you? What was it? What was the most recent one that you sent me? What if you could have?
What if you see the credit card receipts for any company?
Yeah.
Right.
And first of all, the fact that data even exists out there is mind blowing. But then once you think about it for 2 seconds, you're like, yeah, of course, the banks have this data.
It's how it works. That's the whole system.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I was like, my immediate reaction was, well, you could potentially predict what the sales of publicly traded companies are using that kind of data. Is like that seems like it could potentially give someone an unfair advantage, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the idea, though, is to get an unfair advantage. And so the biggest, the most, if you have that data, your biggest clients tend to be hedge funds. So in fact, it's the magazine that I first learned about this. Of course, I learned about this stuff because of Nacho Analytics, which is a previous company. which we can go all into that if you ever want to, but maybe I'll try to just pretend that I'm not talking about it, because it could just be a whole story that would just go for a while. But I basically got this thing called Alternative Data Magazine somehow magically shipped to me, right?
Right.
And so I was like just sitting there and I see it next to me because it was in the office and I'm like, what is this? And I started flipping through and I'm like, oh my God, this is glorious. So it turns out that, some of this alternative data, it's alternative financial data largely, but it's alternative data for whatever you want, right? Like so some of the data is like, satellite imagery of like, Walmart shopping, Walmart parking lots. And, this is like, shipping and receiving ports, right? Satellite imagery of these things.
Right.
So that you can kind of gauge consumer and shipping and logistics, that type of stuff. But one of them is, of course, credit card data, transactional data rolled up by product, rolled up by company, probably also rolled up by demographics. So there's things you have to do to make sure that you
give it over time too, or
yeah, you know what, dude? The data is available as a hypothetical stream, anonymized to the user. So you basically wind up with like a user ID, a GUID,
right,
or whatever, associated with a user, and then it shows the transactions. Now, they may have some issues, kind of like the Nacho Analytics issues, where if you basically look too closely at the transaction information, you could figure out who the person is. I would bet that type of thing is just in that data and not like particularly well anonymized.
Right.
If it were exposed to a broad audience,
they could easily dig it out.
Oh yeah, but the thing is usually this data set is something that is sold on contract with non-disclosures and stuff,
Right.
that type of thing. So it's a $50,000 a month data agreement. You get like the raw data stream, and boom, right?
Right.
Now, this particular thing that we were talking about is an API, and all you get from it is the total number of receipts. The total. So like I ran Spyfu into it, and it said that we had like an average of like $324,000 or so in credit cards, which isn't accurate, but it's probably accurate for Visa MasterCard. It's probably pretty close for Visa MasterCard. I suspect that they don't have Amex, and being a business, a B2B site, we obviously have a lot of Amex. So that's just some way that you would use to interpret the data. But the fact that they have $324,000 in receipts that they can see in their data, that's impressive.
That's incredible because then you could potentially, especially if you kind of saw that data over time, then you could sort of see how far off are they in a typical month, and then sort of if the ratio is the same, because your ratio of Amex customers to Visa MasterCard customers is similar, right?
Yeah.
So you could extrapolate what the missing information is from that, right? So it's funny because when we were talking, I was like, well, you might be able to, like look at 3 quarters worth of a public company's revenues and see, does that data match or like extrapolate from the credit card information what their sales data is, and then based on the fourth quarter, the next quarter, estimate what their revenue is going to be without them having released it yet, because you have a stream of the credit card transactions.
Yeah, and
is that in real time, by the way? Like how close to like now do you get that?
Well, that's a good question. This particular source, when I looked at it, the latest piece of data that they gave me was 11/30, so from 2 months ago. So you wouldn't be able to trade on that information. But I actually don't know I'm fairly sure that it's possible,
right?
To
but
get the live data.
Somebody has that data. Is the thing,
Yeah.
And this is where like it's fascinating. There's like a lot of potential for abuse, and no one fully understands these systems, which is why we also don't have good laws to protect people or the privacy of people, but also like misuse of this information.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't think it's obvious to anybody that has a credit card,
right,
that the purpose of like broadly the bank sponsored credit cards, right? Like if it's the purpose is to sell and package the consumer purchasing information, right? Like yeah. You can trade money with somebody for whatever. It would be interesting. Didn't Apple make the Apple credit card or whatever, and the whole thing is there's no data sharing whatsoever?
Yeah, I think they care a lot more about privacy than probably anyone else.
But I think that's their selling point, right?
Yeah.
We aren't going to sell the data. Well, the thing is that most people don't have that objection because they don't even know that it exists.
Right.
And it's just baked in, but it is fundamentally baked in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing with like Robinhood and TD and all the free trading platforms as well, right? Like the purpose
is to sell your data because that's how they make money.
Yeah. It's not even just to, and Robinhood and TD Ameritrade isn't to sell and every platform, all the consumer platforms, trading platforms. Like the idea is that you can do a little bit of arbitrage with the consumers and they won't notice, right?
Yeah.
They're realistically making a couple cents on every share that I buy. Somebody is like accessing the dark pool into which I'm making my trade, and they're fulfilling my trade, but they're making a couple cents. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. Whatever. I'm not going to complain about it, but
right. But it does create that opportunity for abuse, which is why people are like, "What the hell is going on with the GameStop thing?" Right? Like, literally, the CEO
there's
of
some resentment for sure. Yeah.
Robinhood is on Capitol Hill today, like as we speak, if I'm not mistaken,
really
answering questions about that, because it creates this opportunity for the people who are their customers, their real customers, the ones that are paying for that data, not their users, which
Yeah.
are not their customers, ironically, it creates an opportunity for the real customers that are paying for the data to be like, hey, we need you to shut things down if necessary. And that kind of abuse can exist off the record, essentially, and we don't know. Now, they may have done everything right. They may have not abused their power. Their customers may have not abused their power, but it creates that opportunity, which is where the sort of real issues are.
Yeah, free things, right? There's
Yeah.
always a reason for free.
Yeah.
And sometimes that reason for being free is pretty transparent. It's like, okay, well, there's a premium product that they want me to buy. Freemium, right? Freemium is relatively transparent. But free? I don't know. Okay, they're selling me ads. They're not selling me ads.
What's happening?
Yeah. Right. So there's something going on there, right? So that's.
And what's funny is that if I understand it correctly, and I don't know how much you know about the sort of way that places like Robinhood or whatever make their money, is that they're selling the trade data to companies before they're actually making the trade, and therefore those companies can put in trades ahead of your trade, so that like if you're buying, or if they see like millions of people or thousands of people potentially buying a stock more than selling, they can put in buy orders before those orders, and vice versa. If they see the sentiment is shifting to selling, they can start selling before others can do it. So it's just literally the definition of an unfair advantage, but like potentially, like it's kind of hard to believe that that's not illegal.
I mean, I don't know. Like, to be honest with you, I am not, like, I'm kind of like, yeah, sometimes, pretty often, like, I know how the underlying profit model for a free thing works, and I still do it anyway, right? Like, 'cause I'm like, I find the benefits of basically using Google in non-incognito mode to be more useful. Like, yeah, they give me personalized results. I actually like the ads that I get on Facebook better than, like, I guess, like, okay, like my wife watches like Investigation Discovery Channel, and this is like true crime, and so the people that watch true crime are broadly like old women, and so they're basically just selling you like these random, like, diuretics and, like, just like, I don't know, diapers, and I'm like like adult diapers, and I'm like I would much rather be seeing ads for an electric motorcycle or something, you know? And Facebook gives me that. They say, here's an electric skateboard, Mike. I know you like those.
That's awesome.
I know you like all the electric, that's all they show me. Electric motorcycle. Oh, and weirdly, I've had like some shoulder issues because of, I think, overuse from surfing for the last few months. And so they're like showing me things like back massagers and stuff now.
That's crazy. Okay, so real quick, I got to tell you that NASA just landed the Perseverance. If you want to like do a picture-in-picture so that we can, this is what hopefully we can put on the video stream as well. But it looks like they ended the stream. But Perseverance just did a touchdown, and touchdown basically means it communicated back. So it was a successful landing. So that's pretty exciting.
That is awesome.
NASA landing their rover just happened literally as we were speaking.
So cool.
I know you were sort of talking about the space program. What was it called?
Kerbal Space Program.
Kerbal Space Program.
Yeah, this is one of my recent accomplishments. Is I managed to get to the moon and back. The mun, but not getting to the mun is fine. But you got to get to the mun and back. And of course. I'm a complete noob, right? But like, I use it to teach my kids, and bring the kids and stay for your own addiction. It's kind of how it works.
What's the moon? Is that a meme?
It's the moon.
I missed.
No. It's literally in Kerbal Space Program. It's called the moon is called mun, and
why?
They're just cute.
Oh, okay.
They kind of like make everything like almost like Earth, but it's not. It's not Earth. You're not on Earth. You're on Kerbin, and you got Mun, and then you don't go to like Mars, you go to like what is it, Dubin or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Duna.
Okay.
And then there's a Venus, but it's not Venus. It's called like Eve or something.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting. But it's funny because I've heard so much about Kerbal, and I don't think they have a Mac version, which is why I haven't gotten into it. But that's pretty cool. So,
well, just get a PC just for that.
Literally, I've thought about doing that.
I'll give you one. I've got a bunch of spares. There's you should though, but not necessarily just for you, but because it teaches like you can experimentally, like just learn how to get yourself into orbit. Like you just build your own rocket, and then you just like launch it, and then sometimes it explodes and sometimes it doesn't. But you just basically figure it out. First you launch your rocket straight up in the air, and then you realize that it just falls back down. I literally didn't know that, you know.
Yeah.
I actually thought that if I just got the damn thing going fast enough, it would magically make it into orbit. Because I don't know why I thought that, because I'm an idiot. But until I was like 37, probably. Like, you know.
You didn't realize you need the horizontal speed across.
I kind of thought that maybe you had to do that, but like it's pretty clear, you know, and you can experiment, you can mess it up, right? So, you know, basically if you think of yourself as launching a cannon, you know, it's going to have this arc, right? And what you want to do is basically fire your rockets prograde, which is
fast enough.
Yeah, you want to know prograde is with the direction of your orbit. So you want to like at the apiopsis, the top, the peak of your thing. You fire your rockets prograde, and then what happens is that instead of the landing point moves, right? So the edge of the Earth, you just want to get yourself to the edge of the Earth.
Right.
So you keep going, and eventually you make it so that you're going around, and it's just so cool to be able to just make like kind of like, you know, entrepreneurial mistakes.
Right.
Just
right.
like learn by failing.
Yeah.
And so both my kids, you know, have learned how to get themselves to the moon and stuff like that. And it's just kind of it's an interesting teaching tool. Who knows? They don't need to be astronauts, but I think.
Yeah, but I mean, they've learned so much physics already because you know, like that's college level physics, the orbiting of you know. And how old are your kids?
8 and 11.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, video games are interesting to teach as teaching tools, right? You're just kind of tapping into their innate passion,
curiosity.
Yeah, and then just like giving them the right things.
Speaking of innate curiosity in kids, you homeschool your kids.
Sort of, yeah. Homeschool. It's like a super homeschool, right?
But yeah, I guess it's not the traditional homeschooling where, you know, like you're teaching them at home, but you do a lot of teaching based on, you know, conversations that we've had. But what prompted you to decide to homeschool your kids?
Right. So, I mean, I don't. This is the way that we describe it, right? When we're talking to other normal, you know, people, like, oh, where do your kids go to school? Oh, okay, we homeschool them. But really, the goal is to create the best possible elementary education experience for them. And so I think of it as creating the perfect private school, right? So we basically hired a teacher, interviewed a couple hundred teachers, and in order to, you know, get like the ideal fit and like, you know, skill set, and we're actually on, you know, we have a thing where we kind of want to change out teachers over time. So we're about 4 years, I guess, into this. The original reason was that I kind of just thought that I could maybe do it better. We didn't really have any major complaints about the school that our kids are going to. But I was just like, I felt like there's a lot of wasted time, and that you know, if you could learn only about what you're, you know, if you could follow your passions, because when I would like teach my kids when they were little, I would just like wait until they became interested in like reading, right? Like when they become interested in like flashcards for sight words, I would just, you know, show it to them every once in a while. Once they started to get it, then I would just like let them obsess over it. We do it all the time, constantly. And so my kids both learned to read, you know, when they're like 3, and we just sort of, and it was in like a 3-week period, you know, they just went from 0 to reading in a very short period of time, in a really quick burst. And so I felt like that's the way that I like to learn. I think that's the more natural way to learn, rather than here's a dose of 4 subjects every day, a 30-minute dose. Whether you want to do it or not, you're going to do it.
Right.
I think that if you just kind of like wait and let them obsess and like embrace that, then you can guide them to their passions, and you can really kind of like inject the other stuff as they go. The other thing that I wanted to do is let them move at their own pace, precisely their own pace. If they're sick, the curriculum doesn't keep moving, and if they're like if they're moving fast through it, then the curriculum moves exactly
at their speed.
And then one selfish reason. And the selfish reason is that I couldn't ever get a damn private school to just like be like, let's start the school at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, And so with this, I can just, we can set our own schedule. Like, okay, we're all night owls around here. My kids, they don't go to bed until like 11. They wake up at like 9. And then the teacher comes and picks them up from our house at like 10 o'clock, takes them to the school. And that's, and from a lifestyle perspective, from the fact that my life like isn't governed by like a school telling me when I have to like start what time I have to start the school, what day I have to start the school, when weekends, holidays, vacations.
Right.
I mean, from a lifestyle perspective, it's a huge thing. But from my kids' perspective, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like and I know you did the same thing.
Sort of. I mean, like
Similar.
we only did it with one of our kids, and then he's now back in high school. We did it for two and a half years, but he kind of wanted the social aspect of it that he was missing out. But yeah, I totally agree that like there was so many advantages that having our own teacher. And one of the things that you told me that convinced me is that if you think about all of the teachers that you've had, excuse me, throughout your school, think about how many of them were great versus just like not so great or terrible.
Yeah.
And you can just choose to hire a great one.
Yeah.
and I was like, holy shit, that's very true. Like if the money aspect of it doesn't matter, then and that's possible. That really is a worthwhile thing to spend money on. It feels like.
Yeah. Once you've interviewed your kid's teacher, you'll never want to not interview your kid's teacher.
Right.
And I mean, I think that quite honestly, we have not just our kids in it now. We have we have one of our teachers' kids, because they don't want to be in COVID infested whatever. So they're so we got 4 kids, and it's dope. It's way better. I mean, it's cool. Like, because they get like a little bit of competition, they get a little bit of camaraderie, and having that is actually a better model. And from our perspective, we just pay for the whole thing. But hypothetically, you can share this. You could have a pod, right? Like of 6. Yeah, so you think of a teacher, like $50,000-ish or so,
right?
And then you got to have a place for them. So the cost when you have it at like 6 kids is easily, you might save a little bit of money over private school. Of course, if you're comparing it against public school, of course it's going to be a big cost increase. But
right.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth trying. The thing is that I think a lot of people are afraid of screwing up their kids.
Yeah.
And like, oh, they're not going to have social skills, or they're not going to, I can't do this. How am I going to ramp up to being better than the school? Well, it isn't actually that hard.
Yeah, because the schools are the bar is so low that just almost shooting in the dark would, on average, be about the same as school. So if you're just a little bit better than
Well, I'll just say this, right? Like when you think about like math, right? Everybody has, I think, this math experience where, maybe you were sick for a week. At some point, almost everybody in their elementary school or anytime, you're sick for a week. And if you're sick for a week and you don't do that curriculum for some reason, that's a hole.
Yeah.
And the thing is that all the other stuff that comes out, you don't even think about it really as a kid, but all the other stuff that comes after that point is building on that one thing. You know,
Right.
like typically it's like, you know, you're in chapter 7. Chapter 8 is going to probably reference chapter 7 stuff.
Right. Right.
Or chapter 7.1 is going to get referenced by 7.5.
Yeah, you have to go back essentially. So
You
you're
do.
like behind, and catch up is hard.
And those Swiss cheese that the guy that does Khan Academy, Salman Khan, calls it Swiss cheese education, where you have all these holes, and when you have self-paced education such that it's based on you, you don't have those holes.
Yeah.
And that alone, I think, is worth that.
And you know, homeschooling today, where you know any parent can potentially do it if they have the time, using things like Khan Academy that you just mentioned, and you know, like other tools, is like such an incredibly you have so much better chance of actually teaching the right stuff in the right ways, in the ways that people actually learn, because so many teachers are competing to teach stuff in the easiest possible way on YouTube, on every possible subject. So you actually have like these amazing teachers that you can choose from, that through YouTube videos, can teach your kids essentially.
Yeah, and I think COVID has
COVID
accelerated that stuff too.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, COVID showed, wow, like there's so much material that people can learn from. Like, so many people worry that this past year of kids not going to school or whatever is going to create this whole educational hole. And I'm like, man, this past year probably helped kids accelerate in a way that they may have never accelerated this quickly on learning material that was way better curated online than their teacher could have possibly done. And B, they just learned all sorts of etiquette for meetings and like online meetings and using you know, digital tools, and everybody has Zoom, and you know, like just so many different things that they just got introduced to that can be used in business once they come out of school. So from an education perspective, I'm not worried about kids going through COVID.
No, well, I mean, you know, so I'll say this: the mission of our school, Dragon Claw Academy, is
Wait,
Dragon Claw Academy.
Dragon Claw.
Yeah, because my kids have the one's a Chinese new what's the zodiac, Chinese zodiac,
Okay.
a dragon, and the other one's a tiger. So
Claw, yeah.
So yeah, you know, they get to create their own names and
Yeah.
logos and all that stuff, and the mission of the school isn't to necessarily accelerate their learning or anything. I mean, maybe it is. That's like one of the things. But the mission is to teach them that they can learn, that they can teach themselves anything, that they don't need a teacher, right? So the independent learner. Look, I want to learn how to friggin' like send a rocket to the moon. I guess there's a video game for that,
Right?
Or whatever you want to do. All you got to do is watch some YouTube videos. No, but for real, like the world, there's almost nothing that's like, that's a walled garden. It's that you just can't. You know, we were talking about algo traders, right?
Yeah.
Like these guys are doing hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions, and they're doing it in the open. You know, they're telling other people, you know, they're exchanging ideas. There's so much stuff that you would think is hidden that it's not. Information, I mean, you know, it's there. It's everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Speaking of algo traders, so like that sounds
I make these great segues for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I
Make it easy for me.
I'm working with you, Hamid. I'm working with you.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because like I don't fully know. I think it means algorithmic traders. Like they're sort of like creating programs to do trading, but like I've never done it. I don't know what it's about. So
me neither. You know, like I think that many years ago I thought, oh, you know, one of these days, one way that I'll get, you know, rich is I'll write an algorithm, and I might. I never did because I never have because I just
it's too late now. You're already rich.
Right. Well, no, but it's not because the thing is, it's like, let's say that I had like $10,000 to invest and I made an algorithm to do it. It's like, you know, who cares? Okay, so I made, 20% return. Like it doesn't, I can definitely spend my time more wisely creating value, right?
Okay.
But now I have some money, I have some capital, and so I could actually probably make an actually decent living, let's say, if I built an algorithm. And so maybe I will. I'm focused on other things, but I don't necessarily put that off the table. I think I could. I'll tell you how I think an algorithm could work. But anyway, this is a subreddit called Algo Traders, and it's like it's kind of the complete opposite of Wall Street Bets. If you go to Wall Street Bets, you got kind of like everyday people just talking about random alpha that they think that they're gonna create, right? So it's just this really mildly huge, wide group, and most of the stuff is pretty much trash. Interesting trash, maybe, but I don't have time for it. Algo Traders is like basically guys that are trying to make they're trying to write like an algorithm, a trading algorithm that makes consistent profit for them, right?
Okay.
So and so everybody has a different strategy, and they're not exactly sharing what they're doing, but they're trading information about, well, how do I, let's say that so some people do this thing, they try to tap into the dark pools of, dark pools we were talking about earlier is where, the Robin Hoods and the Ameritrades, TD Ameritrade sort of sell, has like this consumer pool.
Okay.
And so the consumer pool is something that you want to tap into. Well, typically you have to be a commercial entity in order to get like the good trades.
Okay.
But if you do it through the web interface, through like web automation, right? Like just through the standard interface, you're kind of in that pool.
Okay.
Right? So you're able to make trades against other other consumers.
Okay.
But you can only do that at a certain scale.
What does that mean? Doing trades against other consumers?
This isn't like the type of trading that I would I would never write that kind of an algorithm because I don't. I think it's more or less a zero-sum game.
Let's skip that. Let's go to the type of algorithm that you think could work for the market.
Oh, there's all kinds of arbitrage in the world, right? So you basically, so you and I, we are value investors. We see things, and I think we've done relatively well. Oftentimes we buy the same things and don't even talk about it, and then it's nice to know, Right? Like,
no. I mean,
it's validated.
We were both in Netflix at about the same time. We never coordinated that.
Yeah.
Tesla.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were in Twitter.
You should have gotten Heroku.
Yeah, you told me.
I
was
you,
like, this company's way overvalued. And it's like now quadruple what it was when you told me.
That's a 10x one for me at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you waited until it had already tripled by the time you told me that.
Shit, I don't know. What is Roku at?
It's like four something.
I feel like,
but it was one something when you told me, and I was like, "There's no way I would touch this with a 10-foot pole." It's like I just didn't.
Yeah. No, I know, but no, we're often in the same things.
Yeah.
There's obviously ones that you've talked to me about that I've missed, but it's okay. That's part of the thing is you gotta have your own.
But generally, our strategy has been around finding great companies that we believe in, buying their stock where we think they haven't, their stock is not representing their true potential, and then just waiting it out. And usually the ride is super bumpy. When you first get in, it almost always goes down from there.
Oh, we were both in Slack, and then got out at the same exact time.
Right? Because they sold too.
Of course
Well,
you're not going to hold Salesforce.
I mean, plus it was like, but it was 25% of it was going to be Salesforce stock, the 75% cash. So you were only bound to Salesforce by 1/4 of its movement.
So generally, I think that this is the type of thing that we humans are capable of doing: is noticing patterns in a broad way, identifying value or undervalue. It's a wisdom-based approach, right? We're basically like, I know how the world works. You know how the world works. We've seen it enough. We're kind of like old men or something. Like we've figured it out. We figured out the way the world works. And what's cool about it is that we also probably know it well enough that we're able to make big bets on it, right? So it's like, and so that's what I look for. I can't, for example, with crypto, right, with Bitcoin and stuff like that, I don't know that that's going to go up enough to make a big bet on it.
Right.
Carnival Cruise Lines at $12, I bet huge. I'm going to be right. I'm already correct.
Right.
Right. I'm probably going to continue to be correct. And, and so I'm willing to bet, a third of my portfolio on things instead of, 2% here, 5% there,
Yeah.
whatever. So that's kind of like our human brain advantage probably over the AI and the machine learning and the high frequency trading stuff.
Right.
But that's not to say that you can't find that kind of alpha, which is, right? You can find that kind of thing. If you notice a broad pattern someplace, it's not that you can't find it. It's just probably not going to be in the numbers that you can get via an API and plot on a chart and find the technicals, or it is. You might be able to figure out a way to do sort of technical trading on a statistically relevant basis if you sort of hedge yourself in the right way. Remember, we were texting about the wisdom or the utility of stop losses.
Yeah.
Right. So these sort of markets where we're at, like, I look at like a SaaS company and I think, if you're a winner, 13x revenue might be a thing that I would be willing to buy. So I was buying,
Which is high.
It's
I mean,
high.
just to be clear, 13 times revenues is like for a company that has 10 million in revenues, that's 130 million. But like when they're in the public markets, they're actually getting those kind of valuations and much more. Now it's like 30 times revenue.
Yeah, so I looked at Zoom's IPO. Zoom's IPO'd probably at like 45x revenue, and then they like went up to 60x revenue, and I'm like, God damn it, I would really wanted to buy Zoom.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to it deeply.
Me too.
And then they came out, and I'm like, there's no way I can buy this company.
It was way overvalued.
Vastly
until
overvalued.
COVID hit, and then it really became overvalued.
And then it did too. Yeah.
But they also crushed it in terms of like their
They did
revenues.
good. They executed well, and I liked the CEO. I saw the CEO at SaaStr, and I met him, and I was gonna buy it, right? But it's okay, and it didn't necessarily. This isn't like necessarily the breakout stock of 2020 even really.
No, Tesla ended up being that, right?
Yeah, you don't. One of the sort of things is that you can watch as many pitches go by as you want, right? Like, you don't have to swing. Nobody's calling strikes. I think that's a Warren Buffett thing. But in these markets where you've got these SaaS companies that are overvalued and kind of like broadly, I think the market is. I track the SaaS companies because I know it, and you don't need to know everything.
Right.
Right. You only need to know one thing, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny because I put out a tweet the other day that I was like, the best thing about investing is, if you're doing traditional investing, is that the most you can lose if you're buying a company is 100% of your money, which sounds really bad, obviously, and it is. But the most you can make is way more than double your money. So there's no upper limit to how much you can make. You can make 10 times your money in one investment. So that one investment could make up for 10 bad investments. So
and kind of like, the way that I feel like stocks kind of move like this, right? Like if you got like $100 stock, when it halves, it goes to 50, and when it doubles, it goes to 200. But the thing is that you put 100 in, and so those are like halving and doubling are kind of the same. They're sort of two sides of the same coin, right? Like those are kind of like two major fluctuations that are similarly equally likely to happen.
Right.
Right. But when it halves, you lose $50. When it doubles, you gain 100. Right. So it really is stacked in your favor. And then the other damn thing about it is that we are wired to fear loss. Right? We value loss at 2x the value of a gain. So when losing $50 feels the same as gaining 100, right? So we really should just buy more, invest more all day long, right?
Right.
But so the stop loss thing though allows you to sort of limit your downside, right? You just basically set like, okay, so I'm buying the stock at $100, sell the goddamn. I expect it to go up. Sell it if it drops to 80.
Right.
Sell if it drops by 20%. And so then in that sense, you're able to like be in the market, I think, and capture the gains as long as you keep floating your loss.
So
your stop loss up?
So, like, I never have used stop loss. And the reason for that is that because in that analogy that you gave, like, if you buy it at 100, you expect it to go up. It goes down to 80. My standard operating procedure has been that, like, oh, has anything changed about the company? If not,
right.
I want
down.
more
right.
at 80.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to 50. You know what? Holy cow, I might go all in. I mean, that's literally what happened with Tesla for me. Like, I started buying around 200. It went to, like...
Yeah.
It went to like 300 justifiably. It may even have gone up to like 350 or so. And then it started to come back down. And the coming back down like never made sense to me. But like the whole time as it was going up, I was like, I should have bought more. But when it came back down, I was like, all right, now I'm going to start buying more. And it went all the way down to like 170 or 180.
Yeah. I bought most of my Tesla at 180.
Yeah, I ended up like running out of money at 180. Like, literally, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy some options now.
Yeah. That was no, right. I completely agree. When I know what's going to happen, like, so if Carnival drops to friggin' $11, I'm buying more.
Right.
You know.
I mean, just to be clear, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, like, but
no.
The reality is that this is, just to be clear, is that it's for you and for me. I think it's important to point out that this is money that even if we lost 100% of, we had other income. You know, I had other income because of my company, but I sold it now. You had other income because of your company. So like, it's not like money that you absolutely need for anything.
Has it changed? So it's been a few months since you've sold, and I remember when you sold, I was like, I wonder if this is going to change your sort of mental game, right?
A little bit. Like, so I'm still in the markets, obviously, but now we're in a market that I think is way overvalued. I think it's going to continue to be overvalued, and it's going to continue to rise in an insane way for another year, possibly longer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I cannot time the market. Is what I have.
I agree.
I learned that like less than 20 years ago, which is great that I learned it early in the .com
bubble.
bust.
Me too. Yeah.
Because I thought it was overvalued, but when I thought it was overvalued, it was like 97, and I kept being wrong for like multiple years, and then like in 2000 it crashed. But so I'm playing it relatively conservatively. But when I find a company that I'm excited about, like I just tweeted about Arcimoto, for example. I'm excited about this company. It's early stages, but they're making an EV vehicle that's like a 3-wheeled, small. It's great for deliveries.
Yeah.
It's like perfect. They've already built something like 150 of them. They've done their proof of concept. This is a market that if they execute, they can sell 50,000 of those a year. Oh. And if they sold 50,000 of them a year at 20 grand a piece, that's $1 billion revenue company. $1 billion EV revenue company, conservatively trading at 5x, 10x. Revenues is $10 billion market cap. So that's the way I'm thinking about it. And today you can buy it.
That's how you're valuing it is, in your mind is with an EV company is 5x, 10x revenue?
At least. I mean, like, geez, Tesla is getting, what, 30x revenue? I mean, like...
They were getting 1.5x revenue, which is when you and I were like, this is,
Yeah,
stupid.
But that's when it was like, okay, this is stupid, we got to buy. And if this company executes, and I'm in for minimum 5 years, right? Like I'm thinking, in the meantime, if it goes down, I'm going to buy more. I don't have a stop loss on this thing. Like today, it went down another 13%.
Okay, so let me explain the stop loss idea, though, because I agree. I don't want to change my strategy in all markets.
Okay.
I'm just like looking for ways, because right now, basically, I'm like, now I've got like one. I don't need multiple bets, right? Like I don't need. My bet currently is Carnival Cruise Lines. That's the only one that I really actively have. I've got some other stocks that I have, I still haven't taken all my gains on Roku yet, so maybe I should, but I don't really want the tax.
That's a good deterrent, by the way.
It is, yeah. It makes me whole, dude. I have to like spread that out.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's the reason I haven't sold my Zoom. I did eventually buy Zoom after, and I think it was like February or March of last year when I was like, okay, COVID is going to cause this company to like. But anyway, keep
I've
going.
still got some amount of Tesla that I think I had like, I think I bought it for like 20 grand or something. I think I have like 20 grand in basis on Tesla, and it's like 280 or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I just don't really want to put that on my taxes. But yeah, maybe I will. We'll see.
Speaking of, by the way, taxes, just a quick tangent. If you donate a lot, something I did not know about is a donor advised fund.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You could put it into a donor advised fund, not take the the capital gains on it.
That's a great idea for something like that, for sure. I do donate.
Yeah, so I ended up putting a lot of my Tesla in, basically throwing it, deciding that I'm going to donate it. Like I ended up donating a significant portion of my Tesla.
That's pretty sweet. That's a good idea. I keep forgetting about doing that. It seems like a total rich person thing to do.
I mean, you are rich, Mike.
I know, dude, but I try to cling to my roots.
Yeah, me too. But it's terrible.
No, it's good. What, right? Like you're basically like making a donation thing. It's awesome. It's really good. Like it's not.
No, I mean,
there's nothing bad.
Funny.
I'm not trying to make you feel dirty. I just don't. Sometimes I've failed. I always have to remind myself, like, okay, like. You're rich. You could.
But you know what's funny is that I'm glad we're talking about this, because I do feel guilty about being rich a little bit, right? Like there is a certain, like, because I don't know if most rich people see it this way or not, but like I feel like being rich is especially if you're self-made, because if you're born, my kids are rich because they're lucky, like they just, it's 100% luck who your parents are, right? Like that, they didn't get to choose. But even if you're, so there's no question from a luck perspective if you're a kid born into it, but like for self-made ones, it's still a significant portion of luck, right? Like it's a combination of, luck favors the prepared, and you have to be prepared, which requires a lot of hard work, which a lot of people think it's my hard work that got me all this sort of wealth or whatever. But it's like, yeah, a lot of fucking people work hard, and not all of them are rich, right? Like, so.
Yeah. Well, we're also just, we have certain we're born a certain way,
right?
Like I think that there if you want to think about the things that we should be thankful for, there's if you're born with all your limbs and that's a one up,
right?
If you're born without any sort of mental
disability,
mental illnesses, then you're good. I mean, that's another thing to be thankful for, right?
Right.
But then, if you're born with like, I don't know, like if you're
parents that
above
value
average
education
intelligence and stuff like that. Oh yeah, where you're born, your
parents that value education, where you're born. I mean, like there's
so
the
much,
color of your skin. I mean, like there's so much that comes into play with.
Even if you're at the point where you're like, dude, I grinded, I did it all, I basically beat people into submission, and like the only person that can possibly look, you have arms to beat people, right? Like you're in America, you have so many advantages, and so I am consistently thankful, and I think that there is a component to the whole thing where I think that if you're a good person, you should feel some amount of guilt, but at the end of the day, it's a bit draining. So I try to get past it and just be like, well, whatever, I am who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge dick about anything really.
Yeah.
Like,
no. And I can attest to that. You're not a huge dick, but it is something to think about, because it's like, I want to be like a responsible. I want to. use it responsibly in a way, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a sense of responsibility that comes with it. That, like, I feel a little bit of the weight sometimes for that responsibility. The Spider-Man line with great power comes great. Like, I don't have great power or anything like that, and I'm not trying to say, but that just popped into my head. Like, I feel like there's some people who seem to have a little bit of sense of that responsibility. Some people who don't, right?
I mean, you're here. You're not just like at home, like playing video games and jerking off or whatever. Like you're doing stuff, right? You're giving back immediately. Like you got an exit, and you jumped in and said, "Hey, this is the type of thing that we've all been talking about for 10 years," and so I'm going to do it, right? So that's thank you, and I commend you for putting your money where your mouth
I
is.
planted that. All right. Why don't we move on from this subject?
Self-congratulations.
Yeah.
No. I mean, but for real, man, like it's a thing that the community needs, and you're here, and look at this, Arizona, baby.
All right. Let's move on. What are you excited about right now?
Excited about right now? I'm excited.
I know you've been surfing a lot. So, like, besides surfing,
Look,
what are you excited about?
my parents got it was their immunity day yesterday. It was 2 weeks post their second vaccine, and so my parents.
That's awesome,
dude. In the beginning, I was certain that one of them was going to die because they just weren't paying attention to the stuff, and I was just like, it was a tense moment. It was a tense time, real tense.
So much misinformation.
I was in my parents, because they had this thing where there was like they built this. My dad, like a few years ago, built themselves a house in Fountain Hills with it's like a condo. So they're like the second floor, and then they built like the first floor with the idea that hypothetically, if they ever need a caretaker, they can put them in there. But in the meantime, they're going to rent it out. So the people downstairs wound up getting COVID like real early.
Oh wow!
And they share an entrance, and I'm like, you guys can't, because this is when everyone's touching doors, and I'm like, and they're like, well, we'll just hold our breath, and I'm like, what the? It was a tense situation, and of course we've gotten over it because I have an amazing relationship with my parents. But I mean, like, it was some yelling at each other.
Oh really? You had to like
my mom like going in the house like crying, and I'm like, you guys, So anyway, that is dope. I haven't even processed it yet. What does it mean if you're vaccinated? But like, what it means is like they're probably not going to die of COVID. Now,
right.
I should be almost even happier, but I can't quite figure out how to be happy.
Yeah.
There's other reasons, but there's not like I'm a deeply sad person, but my parents have some health issues. But yeah, man, that's pretty cool. We're coming out. Like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I feel like
it's funny because like when I got the second shot for my mom too, which was just maybe a week or two ago, like there is a huge sense of relief that you feel that like, okay.
And I feel like I'm somewhat responsible. I kind of got them through it.
Yeah. You helped me too, by the way. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And I think that the sites to schedule the appointments and stuff are getting a lot better.
Oh yeah, they're way better than when we had to navigate that in the most exciting way possible.
Yeah, we might have had to look at the source code.
There's a little bit of JavaScript action,
maybe, but it was well intentioned with exactly the people who should have been getting it. But
yeah. My dad has like a terminal lung disease, and he needs the damn thing as soon as possible. So
okay, moving on to what else are you excited about? Like COVID, coming out of COVID is presenting a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but now what?
How many things have you learned in COVID? Like, have you picked up any hobbies? Because
podcasting.
Podcasting, yeah. I have
sold a couple of companies.
I know, man. You've been busy. It's amazing. I picked up construction and furniture building and go-kart. I rebuilt a couple of I rebuilt a go-kart. I built a go-kart. I put in like some random like rooms for my kids. I completely redid my backyard. I gutted my beach house. Dude, I've been weirdly busy with stuff, right? Like
That's awesome.
things that I wouldn't normally do. You know, kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think it's opportunity. Oh, I launched myself to moon
The
and
moon?
got back.
The moon.
The moon.
The moon.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What else? Anything we should talk about that we haven't covered yet?
Oh, okay. We could talk about my motorcycle if you want.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you, did you get your, is that the electric?
It's the LS218, the world's fastest motorcycle. The world's fastest electric motorcycle.
Well, it's electric and the world's fastest. Any like
No. I'm
or-
sure that there's a faster motorcycle.
Okay.
Like they've got jet-powered motorcycles, right? This is the world's fastest electric motorcycle, but it did win. It won the Pikes Peak race, which the Pikes Peak race open class, and so the thing about the Pikes Peak race is there's a lot of altitude change, and so you gotta like normal engines, gas engines.
Yeah.
They lose power as they go out, or the power dynamic changes as you change altitudes rapidly. Change altitudes. So and the electric, of course, is you constantly have torque. You're never off the throttle. And so it won an open class. It's the only electric vehicle that's ever won a racing open class of any kind.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, kind of cool. There's not that many of those bikes. They're not like I bought it like 5 years ago.
You've been in the waiting list for a long time. I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
The Lightning Motorcycles LS218. And 218 is the number of miles per hour that it is the land speed record. Land speed or something like that, 218.
Okay, I think I'm bringing it up right now. If you want to,
it's a cool bike. You can ride it if you want.
Yeah, I might take you up on it.
Yeah.
Although, is this it right there?
Yep. Is that their 218 or is that their?
This says
that's
218.
Yeah. So they have a more a consumer model that they're kind of going to market with. That's like more like $15,000 or $18,000. This one is kind of like 40-ish.
Wow, that looks beautiful. Is this what yours looks like right here?
Yeah, except that mine's everyone comes in a custom paint job, so mine's like Spyfu colors.
What's the range on this thing?
Well, so the faster it is, the less the range, right? Because they actually have a different battery combination for track stuff. And so my range, I think, is like 100 miles. I think you can get it longer, but I felt like I was probably just going to ride it.
Yeah. You're not going to go more than 100. You're not taking this thing to San Diego. Like, you're not driving it to San Diego anyway. 218 mile per hour top speed. That's pretty insane. Holy cow.
Dude, it's fun. It's a cool bike.
How quickly does it accelerate? Like 0 to 60?
It's electric, man. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I don't actually know what the specs are from that perspective, but it's scary. It's cool.
I'm glad I have my, I'm an organ donor in case I ride it and it's my last ride ever.
It's like you got ultimate control. The throttle is like you can go, 0.5 miles an hour, like relatively easily, right?
Okay.
Like it's just, you can creep so nicely because the throttle is digital.
Is it as heavy as sort of like normal motorcycles are because of the battery and stuff? Or is it heavier or lighter?
It might be a little bit heavier by a couple, maybe 70 pounds heavier than kind of your average like leader bike, which is, kind of a comparable performance bike as it would be a leader bike.
Gotcha. That's cool.
It also has kind of a narrow or like a wide steering, like you can't turn it around really fast. It's really designed for racing. Yeah. So usually when you're going 150 miles an hour, you don't need to turn really
What's
sharp.
the fastest you've gone on it?
Probably like 140 or something.
That's amazing.
Not crazy.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
You can get there and back in like no time. It's like,
Yeah.
zzz. It's just, and it doesn't sound like anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Electric motorcycles are dope.
Is that a bad thing though, because of other cars on the street? Because like one of the things that motorcycles need is for drivers to be cognizant of them, right?
Yeah, that's a thing. I hate like loud motorcycles. It really annoys me, to be honest. I've never been like a Harley guy. I like so like crotch rockets are like, they don't make any noise. I have an electric dirt bike too, an Alta Motors, and that thing is the best motorcycle. Like, it's amazing. That thing is really, really good. They're out of business.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's super terrible because they had that's a case where they made a truly amazing product, and then failed somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow they failed. I can't. I just. Some of these electric, recreational vehicle things, they fail. Boosted board.
Right.
World's best electric skateboard. Biggest market share. What they did is, I believe that the reason that they failed is that they tried to build a scooter.
Okay.
And they basically bet the company on a scooter, like when everyone's doing like the scooter rental companies. They maybe had FOMO or something and bet the company and wound up like completely becoming insolvent.
Oh, wow.
I mean, manufacturing's like that, right?
Chinese companies got into the scooter market and totally flooded it. Like,
yeah, that would be my concern with your the
Arcimoto.
Yeah, because China is pretty big on like the relatively like lightweight, small electric vehicle thing. They're doing. I was talking to this guy that runs Lightning, the founder of Lightning motorcycles, and I don't remember the numbers that he was telling me, but it was like this absurd high amount of like electric vehicles that they're churning out, like that are kind of like these light duty. And then they're like $2,000.
Right.
It's
but they can't sell those in the U.S. I mean, just the U.S. market alone, I think, is like plenty of units for them to thrive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they can or not. Like my golf cart.
Where's it made at?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a club cart, right?
Yeah.
Like,
but like when you look at what's that company that makes all the 4-wheel drive cars? The name escapes me right now. The off-road cars.
like Polaris or
Polaris,
something?
yeah.
Okay.
Like that's all American made. Like their stuff. I mean, it's $30,000 for a stupid 4x4. I mean, like it seems like something that should be 15 grand or 10 grand is 30,000 for those things, and you would think that Chinese market would be all over that, but they're not, right? Like at least not in the U.S. And I think that's where Arcimoto can excel as well. Because
do you know any of the latest info on like Nikola Motors?
I always thought that was a scam. I mean,
Me
it
too.
just looked like such a
The name.
I mean, the name, the founder Trevor was just like
I never knew much
constantly-
about the founder, but I know that they always had products that they didn't ever end up releasing.
Once they went public or reverse merged with a SPAC or whatever to get to the public markets, Trevor Milton was all over media, all over Twitter, talking about how their technology is so much better and ahead of Tesla's, and how Tesla basically is following in their footsteps. And it was just like, you can say you're following in Tesla's footsteps. You can't say they're following in your footsteps if you have zero revenue, zero product. You cannot say that. That's just the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
And he literally is on record saying the 100 most dumbest things I've ever heard. Like, so, I was like, man, this is like fraud in daylight that is happening right in front of us. I never touched it with a...
No, I didn't touch it. I thought it was I thought that they were going to be really hyper focused on the trucks, and I was like, that's a decent niche to go after. And then then they started coming out with a bunch of other things, and I don't think that I personally saw them as probably going to be a fraud. I did think that it was weird that they chose the name Nikola, and almost seemed like a obvious tip, because it seemed like if you want to like make yourself irrelevant-ish, or kind of like have a weird conversation around your name constantly,
Right.
it would be to name yourself pretty much after Tesla. And so,
Yeah. Like the guy's name was Nikola Tesla. There's already a company named Tesla. It's taken, like,
yeah, yeah.
it's-
It always seemed that particular part of it always seemed pretty fishy to me. It's interesting that it's a local company, and all that. So it's
I don't know if it's local as much as they brought like manufacturing down here, right? Or plans to bring. I don't even know if they brought manufacturing. They bought like some piece of land in Casa Grande or something.
I mean,
I
thought
who
they had,
might
like,
do
5,000
well?
people here. No,
I don't know.
one of my well, I had,
What would they be doing? I mean, they're like hiring 3D designers because all their stuff is renderings.
One of my front end developers left to go work there like about a year.
You should
and a half
ask.
ago.
You should ask them.
Yeah, I could text him.
Yeah, we could call them up right now and be like, "Hey,
Hey man, we're like live on Clubhouse. Or,
we
are
could
we
go.
Are we live on Clubhouse?
We could be.
Oh, we're not. Oh man, where's my exposure?
It's funny. I was considering doing it live on Clubhouse, but the thing is that like they can't interact until a certain point in the show. So like,
Yeah.
it's hard to keep their attention for an hour.
That night that I sent you the thing about Clubhouse, that it existed, Yeah. It was basically the last time that I've been on it. I actually think it's cool. I would like to have it like playing in the background, like while I work. But like if I'm doing any work, I just like need to
Silence.
silence.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same way. But what's funny is that since you told me about Clubhouse, the thing has just absolutely exploded.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Elon went on there, it's just been explosion after explosion of their user base. They've gone from like 1 million to 6 million users in less than like 30 days. And then I think the 6 million number is a couple weeks old. So they might already be past 10 million.
They did an interesting thing with their launch with the sort of
Invite.
well, yeah, like a bit of scarcity that they had going.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty smart.
But I believe that it is due to making sure you can scale and keep the quality appropriate.
Yeah, they wanted to have people with. I'm not sure that I want to. I would speculate that they wanted to have people with some amount of like an audience or some amount of whatever be their first users.
Yeah.
I feel like they probably looked at my Twitter followers, which isn't amazing or anything. It's it's a couple thousand or something, but better than like 8.
Right. I mean, when you look at that, they could tell that you're real, and
Yeah. Yeah.
But going back to Nikola for a second, another company that is building their cars in Casa Grande, or is building the manufacturing capability to do that, is Lucid. Have you looked at them at all?
Mm-mm. What do they make?
Lucid Air is so they're just like Tesla, and they're following Tesla's footsteps. Or Lucid Motors, not Lucid Air. Air is the name of their car. So that's the car. And
yeah. I'm familiar with this. It's a cool. This is the one that Elon is like kind of pays attention to, right?
yeah, he actually lowered the price of the S when they announced their pricing at $69,900. He lowered the S starting price. It was like $72,000 or something to $69,420 at the time. The new S is more expensive now. Yeah, his whole infatuation with 69 and 420 is kind of funny. But Lucid Air seems to have like the closest specs to Tesla Model S that I have seen in any of the sort of electrics, and they seem to be legit. Like they're doing the same style where they're creating showrooms all over the place and selling direct, and they're servicing their own cars. They already have 6 showrooms apparently. So
nice.
Yeah.
I like that Elon is now like sort of, everyone's not like that he's sort of, what is it? When everyone was shorting Tesla and stuff and it was like, oh, Elon Musk said this random thing and what are the shareholders going to think? Now it's like Elon can say
whatever
stuff. And I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the stuff that he says, but I think he's a particularly interesting person and transparent-ish for a
CEO. Yeah.
yeah, just brash, right? He's
Right.
like an interesting fellow. His COVID stances are
Questionable.
totally questionable. It's like, dude.
Yeah. It's like, but you're better off not commenting
I'm
on
your
it.
fan. I
Yeah.
know that you value productivity over everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
but chill.
For a little while, he was promoting those doctors that were saying extremely. I mean, like the problem is that he can't think out loud. You know, like you can't be like publicly saying, "Hey, is this valid?" when you have like 40 million followers. You know, like it's because they're latching on to every word. So
Yeah, you have a certain elevated status, and you're not really. You just you gotta choose what you're saying. It's kind of like
Right.
When you're kind of in like a brainstorming session with your team and you're the CEO, you got to be like, just don't want to like take over the conversation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
His Dogecoin pumps have been questionable in a similar sort of ways. Like, why are you doing that, Elon? Like, it just does not make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you pumping Dogecoin? Like, if you bought it, that's terrible. You obviously like that's not the reason why he's pumping it, but like, that could actually get you in hot water. There might be regulations against it. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like it almost feels like he's like, oh well, whatever, chaos.
Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna create some chaos.
Yeah. Oh, this will be interesting. Let's see how the world deals with this randomness.
It's like pumping Dogecoin and then ends up buying 1.5 billion of Bitcoin. That was awesome.
Yeah, he is the current richest man in the world, right?
Yeah.
So it is kind of an interesting status to be a bit of a loose cannon on some things. Yeah.
I mean, I'll take Elon with his loose cannonness any day, though, right? Like,
Oh yeah, dude, he's awesome. I mean, he's if you got to elect somebody to be the world's richest man,
he'd be the one for sure.
I mean, he's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
He's an interesting one.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I think we could keep this going for like another 4 hours if we wanted to. But
What time is it, man?
it's holy cow! It's 3:00. How long have you been going?
An hour and 40 minutes.
An hour and 40. Okay, like
Boom.
this is gonna be the episode no one watches. They're like they're gonna look at the time and they're gonna be like, I don't have that much time.
Do you do you have an outro or something? I was just going to ask you if you end up do you transcribe them?
No, the outro is gonna be like fade to black.
You should transcribe for SEO, man.
Oh, you mean well? How does that work? Can I throw it through some sort of speech detection thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just upload it to something. And
Why doesn't YouTube already do that?
Yeah, like maybe YouTube does, but you've got it on AZ Tech Beat.
Do I?
Yeah. So so YouTube is going to do it, so you'll be able to be found in YouTube. But you want the SEO, you want the SEO to come to your site.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying like transcribe it and publish the transcription.
Yeah,
I see.
you
I
should.
See.
I mean, it's just good practice.
I got you.
Just a hot tip
From the CEO of Spyfu.
Yeah, I have.
Founder.
I'm kind of an expert on SEO. Like, I guess.
Whatever. Whatever.
Like, I'm not. I mean that like literally. I'm like kind of an expert. Like, I'm an expert because I have to be. I'm more like a data nerd, but like kind of an expert in SEO.
Yeah.
I speak on stages.
I'm not just saying that. Do you know who I am? Just kidding. Dude, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for agreeing to do these shenanigans with me.
Yeah,
entertaining me.
Always. I loved it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
Fade to black.
Fade to black.